Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I'm excited for next weekend, which is the weekend right before my birthday.
Oh, right.
I've taken some days off of work around there, so I'm excited for that. So this will be a full week for me, but then next week will be a short week, and then the week after that is Memorial Day, so that's a slightly shorter week there too. So I got a bunch of days off coming up, so pretty pumped about that.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure I'll probably talk to you between now and then, but happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. What's going on with you?
Not really too much. I'm exhausted today. I helped my dad move yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And it was a huge hassle. Just a tip to everybody out there. Please just pay for movers.
Pay for movers.
I know that might seem like asking a lot, but on behalf of everybody that you will ask to help you, likely for free, please just pay for movers. It's probably not as expensive as you think it is.
Yeah, and even if it's a little pricey, it's definitely worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah. In my dad's case, he got a truck that was too small. Like he realized when he went to go pick it up that it was going to be too small. So then he got the next size up. And I spent the entire day 100% sure that we were not going to be able to fit everything in the truck.
Yeah.
Luckily we managed to, at the last minute, pull some trickery to get everything in there. But anyway,
just barely were able to squeeze everything in.
Pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, he has now moved out of state. So I'll probably see him about as often because now he lives with the rest of my family.
Oh, sure.
But we'll see.
Yeah, no, moving is never any fun. The actual act of moving is never fun. Like the before and after the move is exciting, but
sure,
actually moving furniture and things like that is always a pain in the butt. So yeah, no, yeah. Heck, movers need work.
Yeah.
There's people who that's their job and they need the work. So it's if it's not completely out of your budget, I feel like that's a good thing to do because it's just it's such a headache and then you don't have to worry about it.
At least check and see if it's within your budget.
Right.
Like I said, it's probably less expensive than you think.
Right. Yeah. Just you got to think about how much headache it's going to cause you if you do it yourself or try to get other people to do it with you,
Yeah.
So try to put your friends through that. So
yeah. So I'm all sore. Like moving of any kind today is painful.
Yeah.
But I guess what else is new? Getting old.
Hooray. Yeah. I've been going on walks. I've been trying to do at least a half-hour walk every day, and it's actually been helping a bit just to move around.
Okay. I do about 8 hours of walking every day. So
that's true. Yeah, you're
so
always on your feet. Yeah,
pretty much. Anyway, enough of the aches and pains and such. Do you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Jeff, I want you to close your eyes for a moment.
Okay.
Picture your heart's greatest desire.
Mm-hmm.
For some people it might be companionship. For some people it might be, I don't know, a big house or something. But this is you, Jeff. I want you to picture it. So you've got your eyes closed. I want you to picture it. You're thinking about it. Thinking about it. You open your eyes and you see your greatest desire right in front of you. Do you know what you are seeing, Jeff?
Oh, I think I do, Gabe.
You are seeing the Dragon's Hoard.
Yes.
Because apparently money is in fact your greatest desire. I decided.
Well, magic weapons,
Sure.
Like magical items. Yeah, it's not just about the gold, Gabe.
If you think about it, wishing for a Dragon's Hoard is kind of like wishing for more wishes. Because for all you know, there is another genie's lamp in the Dragon's Hoard.
Could be a ring of 3 wishes in there. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Well, today's magic item was submitted by Dustin. By the way, thank you, Dustin, for coming on the show last week.
Yeah.
It was a great experience having him on here. I always forget to thank all of our guests afterwards, after the episode after. So for every other guest that we've had, if I have not thanked you separately, thank you again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
But anyway, Dustin submitted the Orb of Nepos, or Nepos. I'm going to say Nepos.
Yeah, I think Nepos.
It is said that a strong culture is held together by the shared desires of its citizens. Their hopes and dreams can come to define them or divide them. Never was this so true as under the rule of King Nepos the Neurotic. He feared that the longevity of his kingdom was a facade, that behind nationalism was a festering mass of individualism. He vowed to hold his kingdom together regardless of the cost. To that end, an orb was fashioned and enshrined in his tower. Anyone with an enduring will could use it to project their dreams into the minds of all within its 10-mile range. Nepos then projected his fears of what should happen if the kingdom crumbled to the slumbering masses. Unfortunately, his plan backfired. His dreams stoked the flames of revolt, leading to his downfall. The orb now lays in the rotting tower with a hairline fracture. Every night, it attunes to a strong-willed mind within range and projects its dreams to all who slumber. So there isn't really very much in the way of mechanics. There's some history there, and there's some flavor and a little bit of what it actually does. So the idea being that originally this orb, you could use it to project your dreams into the minds of anybody within 10 miles. And then whatever happened, something went wrong, and now it is broken slightly. It is cracked. And now as a result, it kind of just works like sporadically. It'll just kind of randomly allow someone nearby to unwillingly, I guess, transmit their dreams around.
Right, yeah.
I just thought this was interesting because this made me think of like what other magic items could have slightly different abilities if they were broken.
Right, yeah. If they just had like a small break in them or something.
Yeah.
I really like this, that it's just like a really powerful broken magical item that is like just sitting in a ruin somewhere.
Sure.
And it's affecting a 10-mile radius.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, there's like strange happenings in this town now or something, and like so like and then like the PCs wander into that town and stay at the inn for the night, and suddenly their dreams are flooded with some weird stuff coming from somebody else.
Sure. Or one of the PCs is the one that's chosen by the orb, and then suddenly, like, I don't know, the entire town now has dreams of whatever quest the party is on.
Right, yeah. So like now everybody just kind of knows what's going on with the party. It's like, hey, how's that thing going? They
sure,
like,
sure.
What? How do you know about that? You guys find that goblet or whatever yet? Like.
This makes me think, there are two things that this makes me think of. One is in the Rise of the Rune Lords adventure path, which was Paizo's first adventure path when they split off from Wizards of the Coast. I believe the first adventure is kicked off because there was this town that was built on, they don't realize it, but it was built on this like shrine to this essentially like a god or a demigod of wrath. And that was a long, long time ago. But one day the shrine to this, demigod or whatever, flared up momentarily, and like everyone in town just had like a momentary rush of wrath. For most people, it just came and went. But there were like a certain few people that were harboring some sort of like intense hatred, and that caused it to boil over. And as a result, they went and started on some path towards what would eventually lead to the inciting incident of the campaign. So that definitely, if there was somebody whose dreams were particularly wrathful or something like that, and suddenly their dreams are the ones that are being projected around the city, that could definitely have some unforeseen consequences. If someone was harboring a grudge against their neighbor or whatever, they felt slighted by something, and then suddenly one night their dreams are just full of hatred and anger and so on, it could drive them to become a serial killer or something like that. So that's a really, that's a way that you could use this. Another one, it's not necessarily a way that you could use this, it's just something that this made me think of. Are you familiar with Sandman, the graphic novel series?
Only very vaguely. Skylar has read them. Actually, I'm pretty sure they're on the shelf, like right across from me here.
Well, I recommend you read them if you have them. They're made by Neil Gaiman.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's it's a series of interconnected stories all involving essentially the god of dreams. He's not really a god, but whatever. This being who is like the embodiment of dreams. And so although there is an overarching meta plot, a lot of the stories are, like I said, just kind of loosely connected stories that vaguely involve dreams in some way. And there was one of them, I don't remember what it was called, but the idea was there was this sultan living in the Middle East who his nation was full of all sorts of, I think it might have been tied into the legends of like the like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves and, all like those kinds of the tales from the Middle East that are full of, jinn and all those kinds of stories, like all those things you hear of in folk tales and whatnot. And so the idea was that this nation was just full of stories like that. It was full of all of these supernatural happenings, all this adventure, all of these crazy, awesome things. And one day the Sultan, he was sitting in his palace and he thought to himself, someday this is all going to be gone. Someday I'm going to be gone. My people are going to be gone. I want a way for this land and all of the stories and tales that take place in this land. I want a way for all of this land to live on forever. And yada, yada, yada. He finds this like glass orb. I don't even think the glass orb did anything. I think the glass orb like contained a demon that he was threatening to release. Basically, he got face to face with the embodiment of dreams and he threatened him. He was like, I'm going to shatter this orb and let out this demon or whatever, unless you make my nation immortal. You make it so that our stories and our lives will live on forever. And so, the god of dreams or whatever, he was like, okay, that's what you want? Okay, snaps his fingers. And then in true monkey paw fashion, it's not that he made everyone immortal. The king wakes up, or the sultan wakes up, and he's not a sultan. He's a beggar living on the street. However, he hears people sharing the stories of these supernatural happenings and this adventure and so on and so on. And he realizes that he has turned the world that he knew he turned it into folk tales. And as a result, it will live on forever. It'll live on in the memories of everybody telling the stories, but it physically doesn't exist anymore.
Huh.
And so I guess it wasn't quite as connected to this as I thought it was, because I did remember there being a crystal orb in the story, but it wasn't even...
Right.
That was just a threat that the guy was making. Anyway.
Sure.
But it deals with dreams.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
So, what if... here's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
A person gets trapped in the orb.
Okay.
Like, they get sucked into the orb along with their dreams or something.
Huh.
And then maybe they once existed and now they're gone. Like nobody knows what happened to them.
Sure.
But they keep dreaming about that person. Or the person never existed, but everybody thinks they know this person.
Right.
Because they are constantly having dreams where this person shows up.
Yeah. Like the whole town has like this collective memory of this person that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
But like they all like talk about it. And so like the players come into town and they're like, who is this guy they keep talking about? Like, who is this guy? I want to meet him. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's probably over, he's always hanging out over there,
Yeah. Like maybe part of the quest is they meet someone from this town who like moved away and they're like, oh yeah, I used to have this buddy, Sal, go talk to Sal. And then they go to the town and they can't find Sal anywhere, but everybody seems to know Sal.
Yeah.
And they have to find Sal in order to get the whatever information about the adventure they're on.
So yeah, no, I like that idea that the orb has created somebody, or like it's like the consciousness of the orb, maybe? I don't know.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Maybe so the Sal was not actually a person, it's just the orb is creating that person to try and reach out.
Yeah, it's become like an intelligent magic item or something.
This is okay. So like this is a fairly simple item. It's just like one paragraph, but there's a lot in there. There's a lot to be gotten from this.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Yes. So I mean, we could probably go on about it for forever, but we'll move on and move on to the rest of the episode. But huge thank you to Dustin. This is a deceptively awesome item.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, that was the Orb of Nepos, submitted by Dustin via Discord. Again, thank you very much, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Dustin and they wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, or they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today.
Mm-hmm.
As usual, we're giving away a copy of 3 supplements from Crit Academy, the Warmind, the Skybreaker, and the Werecat. 3-player options for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So Jeff, who is our winner of these 3 great supplements today?
Today's winner is Dustin F.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes. I assure you, it has nothing to do with bringing in the item. I already had everything else set up. I rolled for it.
Or having him on as a guest last episode.
Right. Well, he didn't. I don't even think he submitted until after he was. I don't think he was on the list until after he recorded with us.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of he's the most recent person to have entered, and it came up him.
You know, these coincidences happen from time to time, but it's only just a coincidence. It's like, you know, like
we've had like 150 episodes with a giveaway, so it's bound to happen a few times.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like not a ton of people enter all at once.
Sure.
At least they didn't with the last few, as far as I remember.
Yeah, at any given point, we've got like maybe 5 or 6 people on the list.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Dustin. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. Be sure to let Crit Academy know what you think. Leave them a review for each of the supplements if you can. I think they're also throwing in some additional supplements on top of those 3. But leave them reviews, because the more reviews they get, the more attention they get. Also, the more they know to work on making their products better in the future.
Yeah.
So a big thank you to Crit Academy for helping us, you know, give away these great supplements to listeners. Congratulations, Dustin. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to enter this drawing and they wanted to win these 3 supplements, just like Dustin did, how would they enter?
They can enter by sending us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Crit3 in the subject line.
That's correct. So thank you, everybody. And good luck to everybody else who's still in the running. Do you love Interparty Conflict? You know, the show you're listening to right now? Yeah! Then check out their Patreon at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. You can help support the show and get tons of bonus content too. Access hundreds of outtakes, dozens of short stories, periodic updates about the behind the scenes of the show, personalized media, a monthly Roll20 game run by Gabe himself, and more. Every month, Green and Red Tier patrons get access to the bonus podcast, InterPatronConflict, where Gabe and Jeff cover a wide variety of topics. Join right now and access the most recent episode, which might sound a little something like this.
I saw me slide it to him. He saw me slide it to him, but it just was not there. It just disappeared. So we were both completely confused because we both saw that I had handed it to him. I tore that desk apart. He looked all over the floor where he was. I looked in crevices I didn't even know existed. And as far as I know, that card was never found. It just glitched out of the matrix.
Right, yeah, because it's just been like a crack in the wood of the table or something that it just slid into.
But here's the thing. When we broke that table down because we were moving to a crappy building.
Right.
I mean, I worked there then. I still remembered that incident as I do now. I was there when we took that desk apart. There was no library card.
It's people needed it. It had to it had to be somewhere else.
That library card died on its way to its home planet.
Right.
Once again, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict to help out the show and access all that bonus content today. And just one more quick thing. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy, critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Austin create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance, which I believe just started putting out new episodes, so go check them out. Also check out D&D Character Lab. Garen and Dan made characters every week and pitted them against each other. And check out The Kind GM, who I believe is still on some sort of a hiatus or something. But I think they're still putting out non-podcast related content. Check out all of them. We got some great stuff on this network. Great stuff. So let's get into this episode and some questions, Jeff.
Okay. All right. Our first question comes from Deborah Soar on Discord, and they ask, what class or subclass is the best for making a classic witch?
Yeah, so a witch is one of those archetypes that, shows up in popular fiction a lot. And so Deborah Soar was wondering, what sort of class or subclass, what setup would you use to emulate that in a game like D&D? Of course, there have been editions of D&D where there was just a witch class.
Yeah, some form. Yeah, because I'm trying to think to myself, like, what do I think of when I hear witch? And like, I guess, like, if you're thinking like, I don't know, Wizard of Oz or
sure,
yeah, like your classic, like your classic like Cauldron Coven, perhaps a spell book or something, flying on a broomstick kind of witch.
Yeah.
Because I know in Pathfinder there's witch, like a witch class in the second edition, and there's like a witch class. I haven't quite looked into it. I know there's some focus around their familiar, and that's a big thing with witches.
Okay, yeah.
Is like they'll have a familiar or like a connection to their familiar of some sort.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I'd say a safe place to start would be, obviously you're looking at your arcane spell casting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's like a sorcerer subclass that has more like, because I know like there's like, it's in some editions there's like the different bloodlines that you can choose, and like one of them might be like hag or something. And I think like the hag monster is is like similar to, what a witch would be, in a way.
I'm not familiar with the flavor of a lot of, so like I don't know the backstories of a lot of the sorcerer bloodlines, but there doesn't appear to be one that is like the hag or whatever. But I think hags are a pretty good model for what what a witch could be in D&D, because of course it is going to be pretty subjective. Different people have different interpretations of what a witch is. So the elements that you personally consider to be appropriate for a witch are going to dictate what options that you choose. But hags are pretty close. I'm pretty sure that they are based on the idea of a witch or whatever.
Right.
And hags in 5th edition are fiends. So that is an important thing to be aware of. I personally would say warlock.
Sure.
I think that warlock is the closest, particularly Pact of the Fiend. And then not only that, but if you took Pact of the Tome, it'll also give you a spell book, which you can then, you can have a bunch of rituals in there. Because when I think of a witch, I think of sitting over a cauldron, performing some sort of a ritual.
Yeah.
I think of having made some sort of a deal with, if not the devil, a devil. So Pact of the Fiend is, pretty close to that. I do think of there being a familiar, but if you have, I know Pact of the Chain is the warlock thing that has a familiar, but
right, yeah. If you want to go that,
you can't get one,
right? Although if you want to go that route, it's there.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of what is closest for me. I do think that wizard fits really well. Like there is a lot about the wizard that does strike me as being very witch based.
There is something we're forgetting.
What's that?
That we made we actually made a witch character that was that did pretty well on the time we
D&D
guested
Character
on D&D Character Lab.
That's true.
We made a character based off of the witch from Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, Winifred Sanderson.
Sanderson.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, which she was a warlock, if I remember. I believe she was. Well,
I thought she was a wizard.
Was she a wizard? No, you're right. I think she was a wizard. No, she was a wizard bard.
Let me see if I have any notes on that.
I can't remember exactly. I feel like maybe I made her a warlock. I can't remember. I know, but in either case, she was a bard. And I mean, like, if you want your witch to be like a singing witch, you know,
sure, I don't think many people include that in their definition of what's a witch, but who knows?
I mean, heck, I like Hocus Pocus. I love Bette Midler, whatever.
Yeah.
But even without the singing, Bard is like arcane spellcasting as far as I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, and like a lot of their spells and abilities and stuff are like beguiling kind of things.
Yeah.
Like charm effects, enchantments, things like that, which can all, which feel kind of witchy to me. Mm-hmm. So like I feel like looking into Bard and some of the Bard schools or whatever they're called, or is it colleges or something?
Colleges,
like that?
I think.
Yeah. So looking into Bard, it would be a good place too. Because there's a few of the subclasses in Bard are actually pretty interesting. Yeah. Because like Bard is again one of the best, if not the best, classes in 5th edition.
That is true.
So I think you can make a pretty cool witch, at least with some levels in Bard. Yeah.
It's pretty hard to screw up a bard at all, no matter what archetype or no matter what, character or whatever you're emulating.
Right.
You can do it pretty well with a bard.
Yeah. You can find something that works.
Oh shoot, I found it.
Did you?
She is a necromancy wizard.
Oh, right.
Level 6 necromancer, level 6 glamour bard.
Right, she was a necromancer, because of course she was.
Right.
So she was a necromancy wizard and a College of Glamour, or what was it called?
College of Glamour, yeah.
Yeah, College of Glamour. Yeah.
Bette Sanderson is what we called her.
Bette Sanderson, yeah.
Yes.
One of the better characters I ever came up with. She was great. So that's my suggestion.
Sure.
It's like, necromancy is a good place, is a good, like a necromancy wizard. Again, it depends on what your idea of a witch is.
Yeah, I could definitely see arguments for almost any class being a good fit for the wizard. Like Druid, of course, is a good one.
Right,
Lots
of course,
of nature stuff, turning into an animal, all that. That's all part and parcel, I guess.
Yeah, one of the Druid circles would be good too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really do have, because the idea of being a witch is that's flavor. Like you can flavor any one of the spellcasting classes, and you can find some way to turn it into a witch. Yeah, it's just like whatever thing about the witch you like the most. Could be like you're going more for like the maybe like more of like a fortune teller kind of witch. You can look more into like divination or something.
Sure.
You can even look into divine spellcasting, cleric, and stuff like that. The different domains might lend better to certain aspects that you like about witches. I mentioned like a lot of witches, like you got your bubbling cauldron, maybe making potions or something like that. I can't remember exactly how making potions in 5th edition works. I'm not too sure. I mean, like, heck, maybe even some form of artificer could lend to that.
Yeah, maybe an alchemist or something. Yeah,
alchemist, artificer. You could maybe get some of that going in there.
Sure.
I mean, just like I feel like whatever witch character you want to base your character on, like whatever type of witch.
One thing that I think is pretty crucial to making a witch that not all classes get, and this is one of the reasons why I chose Warlock, is because they get the ability to hex people.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, the hex
is a big
mechanic in
thing.
5th edition is pretty light, but, there isn't like a wizard thing. I guess you could cast Bestow Curse on somebody, but that's a little bit different.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, no, like, the hex, the ability to hex people.
Like, I'm looking at the Pathfinder Witch, and it gets a whole bunch of different hexes. Like, every 2 levels, you get to choose a new hex.
Nice. So yeah, like, I forgot about the whole, the hex aspect of witchcraft.
Yeah.
So Warlock's definitely a good way to go. Again, like, like any of the different types of wizard you're looking at, like, enchanter or, necromancy or something, depending on like what part of witchcraft you want to go in.
I kind of want to try and make a paladin reskinned as a witch.
Huh.
That you're like devoted to whatever the, whatever entity you got your power from or something.
Sure.
And just reflavor it. A lot of the stuff that paladins can do to be hex-based. I don't know. I guess I need to look at exactly what paladins can do, but it would be an interesting exercise to turn a paladin into a witch just by reskinning the abilities.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a sort of a neat challenge to to reskin classes to be completely different from what they would normally be.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question comes from Robots Are Better 11 on Reddit. And they ask, can the message cantrip communicate with a deaf person?
Yeah, so let me bring up the actual text for message, because I was pretty sure I knew what the answer was until I read the 5th edition version of it.
Yeah, I vaguely remember there being some very specific wording in the...
Yeah, so what it is in 5th edition, it's a transmutation cantrip, range of 120 feet, verbal, somatic, and material components. A material component is a short piece of copper wire, duration 1 round. You point your figure toward a creature within range and whisper a message. The target, and only the target, hears the message and can reply in a whisper that only you can hear. You can cast the spell through solid objects if you are familiar with the target and know it is beyond the barrier. Magical silence, 1 foot of stone, 1 inch of common metal, a thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood blocks the spell. The spell doesn't have to follow a straight line and can travel freely around corners or through openings.
Huh.
So, it's not really quite as clear from the 5th edition version as I thought.
Yeah.
But I'm going to look at the 3rd edition SRD and see if that is different.
Yeah, actually, I thought there was more specific wording to that from what I remember reading on it. I might be thinking of a different edition or a different spell. It just says that they hear it. So I guess I feel like that could go either way.
Well, here's the thing. So I've got the 3.5 SRD open for message, and it is notably different.
Okay.
This one, some of the other details are the same. You can whisper messages and receive whispered replies with little chance of being overheard. You point your finger at each creature you want to receive the message. When you whisper, the whispered message is audible to all targeted creatures within range. Magical silence, 1 foot of stone, blah, 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 blocks the spell. The message does not travel in a straight line. It can circumvent the barrier, blah, blah, blah. The creatures that receive the message can whisper a reply that you can hear. The spell transmits sound, not meaning. It doesn't transcend language barriers. So the 3rd edition version and or 3.5, I'm pretty sure it was the same 3rd edition, is specifically it transmits the sound to the creatures. In that case, it was multiple creatures, the creatures that you choose. So in that, the message is audible to the targeted creatures, and then again, transmits sound. So theoretically, someone could still argue, well, it's audible. Maybe they mean it's audible even if they can't hear. I don't know, yada, yada, yada. But
right.
In 5th edition, I think the argument is a bit stronger.
Sure. Although in the 5th edition one, it does say it's a whisper, like you whisper. So you're like physically whispering something.
Yeah.
It's just that it's only heard by the target.
Sure. It's definitely not as cut and dried as I thought it was.
Right, yeah. Okay, so this is D&D, so there's magical deafness. So there's a spell that makes you deaf for however many rounds or whatever.
Sure.
Or you could be in a cone of silence or whatever. So I feel like for a cantrip, it wouldn't get past those.
Yeah.
But does that mean that it wouldn't get past natural deafness?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good distinction, I think.
Yeah, because I think because like I think like blindness, deafness, or whatever is like a first, if not a second level spell.
I think second.
A cantrip getting around a first or second level spell.
Yeah.
Not in an easy way, and it's not like the deafness spell is mostly there to like mess up spellcasters.
Sure.
Or blindness was to mess up melee like martial classes.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's its main thing isn't like, oh, you can't communicate with this person.
Sure.
Oh, that's definitely can be used that way and pretty effectively. I still don't know. I don't think a cantrip ability would get around that. So yeah, again, the question is, would it work on natural deafness? And I guess again, that's sort of like that's a toss up, and it could be just be up to the DM. Although this does kind of like when we talked about like characters that have disabilities or something.
Yeah.
Like one of them could be that they're deaf, but the way that they are able to kind of get around it is they use the message spell a lot. And that's just sort of like one of those things that way it's not like mechanically doesn't hinder them too much.
Sure. That's definitely something that I would be, if a player wanted to do that and they came to me ahead of time and was like, this is my idea for the character.
Right.
I'd be on board.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like magical sign language. Although I'm assuming that it's a somatic or verbal component, which anything with a verbal component you take disadvantage or something when you're, I don't know, like if you're deaf, I forget what that really does for you.
I don't actually know if there's a stated effect on spellcasting in that case.
And I mean, it's not like a casting with a roll either. Like it's you're just casting a spell that has a verbal component.
I know in third edition there was something like if you are deafened, you had like a 30% chance of losing a spell that you tried to cast. I don't think there's anything equivalent in fifth edition.
Yeah, I imagine it's just like he gets a disadvantage or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So I've brought up just for comparison, I brought up sending both in 5th edition and in 3rd edition.
Oh, sure. Sending,
and, the 5th edition version of sending, you send a short message of 25 words or less to a creature with which you're familiar. The creature hears the message in its mind, recognizes you as a sender if it knows you, and can answer in a like manner immediately. The spell enables creatures with intelligence scores of at least 1 to understand the meaning of your message. So that seems pretty clear to me that it works even if you're not physically hearing it. It is going straight into your mind. It is sending meaning, not sound, compared to what's.
And what level is sending? Is just 1?
Sending is 3rd in 5th edition. In 3.5, it was 4th for clerics, 5th for sorcerers and wizards.
Oh, okay.
Also in 3.5, it took 10 minutes to cast.
Woof.
I did not realize that. One action though in 5th edition. 1 action.
Yeah, because that's so what, third level.
Because why would it be 10 minutes? That's goofy.
Yeah, I guess I'd say no, it wouldn't work on a deaf person, but I feel like the DM could judge that, it could rule that it's like, oh, it works on natural deafness, but not magical deafness of any kind.
Okay. Yeah, I personally would agree that it isn't intended to work with a deaf person. But again, if a player had that in mind as part of their character, I'd be on board. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it. I feel like it's the circumstances under which that would have to be in play for that to be harmful to the game in any way.
Right, yeah. There is one thing though. It's like if it's somebody who's been like deaf, it'll have to be like a case by case basis, I think, because if the character has been deaf since birth, then they wouldn't understand the language.
Sure.
I mean, like they understand language. Like it's not like deaf people don't understand language. They have a language.
Right. But they wouldn't understand the sounds that they're hearing.
Right. Yeah. They like it's not. I don't like obviously I'm not deaf. I don't personally know any deaf people.
Sure.
At least not for, any extended period of time. I've met deaf people, but I don't know what it's like at all. So
Sure.
I just like if if they have a common language with the person casting the spell,
Mm-hmm.
and like they at one point in their lives use that language, and they're now like maybe just in their old age have lost their hearing or something like that.
Sure.
And not all deaf people can't hear anything. Like I understand that when you think about blindness and deafness, you think like, oh, they just can't see. Like, okay, that's just everything's black or everything's white or whatever. And then like in deafness, it's just you can't hear anything. But like being legally blind doesn't mean you can't see anything. It's
sure.
just
like I've heard people criticize Stevie Wonder as like, oh, he's not actually blind, because there are videos of him he catches a mic stand that's falling over or something. And it's like, it's not that he's not blind. It's that he can't see well enough to do anything other than catch a falling mic stand. It's not that he's completely blind. He's legally blind.
He's legally blind. Like, it's like you wouldn't want him driving a car. Like,
Right.
It's like you wouldn't want him operating machinery. Like,
he can see movement,
Yeah, walking down the street's pretty dang dangerous for him.
Sure.
Like that kind of thing. Yeah, it's like, blindness doesn't necessarily mean it's just pitch black or, or completely white or whatever.
In some cases, but not all cases.
Right. So I feel like it's sort of up to the DM in the moment to be like, no, it doesn't work. Or like, oh, they seem to understand you or something,
right.
It's just like, it's a cantrip. It's a cantrip version of sign language, basically. Like you're pointing at them to tell them something. So you're using your hand to do a thing.
Sure.
You could just be like, oh, that you could just sort of rule it as this is sort of a magical sign language in a way.
Yeah.
But I feel like any sort of, any other spell that could thwart it does thwart it.
Sure. I think I would allow it if the player did any kind of like legwork to explain why it works.
Sure.
Like like you were saying, if it's that they've been deaf their entire life, they've never been able to hear anything, then I would probably say, well, no, unless they've grown up with this spell and, they were taught how to speak, or they were taught how to understand the language specifically through use of the spell. Okay. In that case, if it's part of your backstory that you know how to do this, fine.
Yeah.
No worries for me, but I do need a little bit of that.
Right. Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, though. Something I'd never thought of before seeing this question.
Yeah, and I brought up the deafened condition for 5th edition, and it's just you automatically fail any ability check that requires healing or hearing.
Okay, I guess
that's all. I mean, this was just like a short, like a quick reference guide thing, but that's all it says. So it's like, okay, well, that's basically nothing.
Sure.
I mean, it's it's big in role playing, but as far as mechanics, it's not really much.
Right.
It's I think that one's on the DM. Like it's not clear cut in the rules. Maybe there's I doubt there's a sage ruling on it.
I'm sure there is. I guarantee this has come up in maybe one person's game ever.
Sure. Yeah. But that's interesting.
It's definitely a thinker,
Yep.
All right. I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what was your first experience with a doppelganger in D&D? How did the encounter play out? So do you recall what your answer was, Jeff?
I'm the doppelganger.
Right. So the first time that you encountered a doppelganger, quote unquote, was I asked you during the Age of Worms campaign if you would be willing to be replaced with a doppelganger for a couple sessions.
Yeah, it was great.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I think that worked out pretty well. And I think that my first encounter with the doppelganger, I was running a doppelganger as the dungeon master, and I did not use it effectively at all. I biffed some of the rules. I didn't use it for tension. I think I just used it to get the players into a dungeon.
Sure.
Or something, so... we didn't get a ton of responses to this one. That's fine. Like I don't expect everybody to have encountered even like trolls. Not everybody has encountered trolls in D&D. So something like doppelgangers, I was not expecting a ton of responses.
Yeah.
But Crit Academy on Facebook says, my character died and was replaced. DM gave me 3 poisons that I had to secretly slip to the noblewoman we were supposed to protect to frame the player characters. Suffice to say, I wasn't successful. Got decapitated. So I died twice. It was a lot of fun. Had the players chasing red herrings left and right. It was great. So yeah, that's pretty cool. As long as everybody had a good time.
Yeah, that's a cool way of dealing with character death. I mean, like the scenario is very specific. Like it have to be like they got split up from the group kind of situation.
Sure.
Or maybe like if maybe the player goes down, but then like gets carried away by the enemy or something.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, like either and you just like play it off like, oh, they failed their death saving throw, but then the DM just sort of plays it off as like, oh, who knows what happens.
Sure.
So yeah, that'd be kind of a neat way to just like if a player's character dies, but you don't want to necessarily like introduce a whole new character. You just introduce you just bring back that same character, but they're a doppelganger.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Heck, you could even have it reveal to the players that a doppelganger has actually been shadowing the party for a long time because they wanted to become an adventurer. And when they saw that one of the players died, they saw that as their opportunity to take the place of that character or something.
Or the player's been playing the doppelganger the whole time, and now when the doppelganger dies, the real character shows up and be like, "Guys, I've been trying to catch up with you this whole time."
That's really good. Actually,
you left me back in the tavern that we met in at the very beginning.
I had all these other adventures.
I went to the bathroom.
Yeah,
I got to the bathroom for 10 minutes, and you guys are gone on an adventure.
Not to give any spoilers, but the movie The World's End very much plays with the trope of doppelgangers replacing people.
Oh yeah,
it's like Simon Pegg, the people that made Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz,
right?
The third movie in the Cornetto trilogy. Mm-hmm. Go watch it; it's a great movie. You don't need to avoid. It's not connected to the other two. It's its own standalone movie. So go check it out.
It's pretty good.
It's probably my favorite movie in the world. Right?
It's pretty great.
So next up, Abigail M says, probably running the Ravenloft Hour of the Knife adventure back in the day. I'm actually not familiar with that adventure. I'll have to check that one out. Dan W says, I haven't had the experience that I know of. And quickly looks behind him in a paranoid way while spooky music plays.
Uh-oh.
And that's true. Yeah. Some people may have encountered a doppelganger, but didn't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Over on Reddit, Alstar the Minotaur says, ooh, I got a good one. There was a deep rubbish pit on the side of the road, and there was a child that was stuck in said pit. I was playing a wizard at the time, and when we pulled up the child, he grappled me and dragged me into the pit, shifting into me during the tumble. So there were 2 identical wizards at the bottom of the pit, and I remember distinctly that I definitely got shot at least once.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The very first adventure of the Adventure Zone, they played with this a little bit. The party was sent to rescue this NPC, and when they got there, it was an elven wizard. They fought the wizard, and then the wizard sort of like turned himself into the NPC, so there were 2 of the NPC. However, the DM, of course, was doing the voice of both of them, but he gave the fake NPC the same voice, the very distinct voice of the wizard they were just fighting. So it was played as a joke rather than an actual, conundrum.
Yeah.
Over on Twitter, we actually didn't get anybody on Twitter. And over on Discord, we got a couple. Lone Wolf Nate says, running Dungeon of the Mad Mage. There's a gang called the Undertakers or something, and they are bandits made up of humans and doppelgangers dressed as vampires.
Huh.
So that's kind of neat. So the doppelgangers are posing as a different type of monster, which is neat. Collins B says, ran Orrery of the Wanderer, and there is a side quest where a fellow employee of Acquisitions Incorporated was arrested for murder in Neverwinter. Turned out they were a doppelganger who was disguised as someone who committed murder while they were in the disguise. The party had to either break the doppelganger out of prison or find the real murderer. So it's not that the doppelganger murdered somebody in order to frame somebody else. It's that the doppelganger accidentally took the form of a murderer and got framed for the murder. That's pretty good.
That's interesting. I like that.
Also, I'm not sure if I think I understood the situation. That means that the doppelganger was actually part of their organization, which I think is really cool. A doppelganger or a changeling could be a very valuable asset to like a spy agency or whatever. I don't know what actually Acquisitions Incorporated is, but that if you were to befriend some sort of shape changer, that could be a huge boon to your organization.
Mm-hmm.
The beverage tea says, okay, I'm starting to feel like a lame-o, but Baldur's Gate was my real introduction to D&D. Spoiler alert for a decades-old game. The docks, the Iron Fist's fortress, and the Ducal Palace all had doppelgangers, but there was a sword that was +3 versus shape changers.
I know that sword.
Yeah?
I feel like I remember that sword.
Cool.
But I'd say Baldur's Gate games are valid.
Yeah.
They're all, they're based heavily on D&D, like the rule set and everything. So
I'll never forget my friend Nick, after I had taught him to play D&D, and he somehow still came out of it with the assumption that D&D was satanic after playing the game for several months.
Right.
He came to me one day and he was like, hey man, have you heard about this game called Baldur's Gate? And I was like, I've heard of it. Yeah. Well, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, it's really cool. It's just like D&D, but it's not satanic. I'm like, oh, is it now?
Is it okay?
Anyway, but one thing you said that you know that sword. I remember in the game that introduced me to D&D, The Curse of the Azure Bonds, there was a sword you could get in a chest, in like a hidden chest very early in the game. That was a +3 flame tongue, I think it was. And at the time, maybe there was something else in the game that I just never saw, but my assumption was that was the strongest sword in the game. I don't think I ever remembered finding a sword that was better. So what I would do in that game, there was a little trick where you could make a group of characters, and then no matter where you were in the story, you could kind of start the game over with those same characters.
Mm-hmm.
It was set up so that if you had played another game in the same series, you could sort of like take a character from one game, save the file of that character, and then upload that file into a different game. So you could theoretically have the same group of adventurers going through all of the games in the series.
Yeah.
But you could also use that to just send them through the game you were just playing. And so I would start a group of players. I would go up until I got that sword, start over, go up until I got that sword. And then eventually the whole party had the most powerful sword in the game.
Right.
At the beginning.
The sword from Baldur's Gate was Kandar.
Okay.
It was a bastard sword +1 that had +3 versus shapeshifters.
Okay.
So I was like,
cool.
I went and looked it up in the Baldur's Gate wiki, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that was it was like a significant weapon in their game.
Sure. And then just one more. Potato Plunderer says, one of my players sure feels like a doppelganger. Away from the table, she is one of the kindest people I know. But at the table, her character is the snarkiest, most unsympathetic, I don't give a beep person I know. She plays her character as a matter of factly, but she cares for the team and their survival. She's just not afraid to butt heads with anybody in the party. So yeah, that's, I guess, I've never played with somebody like that, but I've heard stories of somebody who is just completely different in the game than they are out of the game.
Sure. Yep.
So that was our last social media question. Thank you everybody who wrote in. Our next social media question. I'm kind of liking this trend of asking questions that are like, what's your first encounter with blank? This one doesn't have to do with this particular episode, but the question is, what is your first experience with bags of holding or other extra dimensional spaces? So do you recall what your first encounter was with a bag of holding, a portable hole, a handy haversack, anything like that?
I can't. I feel like it was a portable hole.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this isn't a D&D encounter.
Okay.
But I remember the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Sure.
Or it's like there's like the whole like it's I don't know what they called it or what it was just.
I think it was just an Acme hole.
It was just an Acme like hole in the wall, or it's just like this. It was like this. It looked like a little rubber piece, like a little black rubber like thing, and he threw it on the wall and then just kind of put his arm through it. And I was like, oh, that's great. So that's what I picture portable hole. Like when I think portable hole.
Yeah, so because that was based on like just in Looney Tunes cartoons or whatever.
Right.
The joke was there would be like a hole on the ground. They would trick the Roadrunner would trick the coyote into falling into this hole, and then the Roadrunner would just pick up the hole and walk away.
Yeah,
and that was the joke, and so they put that into the movie.
Right, or they would like move the hole onto a different surface, and they would come out the other end. Like they would
or they would stretch the opening of the hole so it was bigger.
Right, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's not exactly how portable holes are in D&D, as I'm sure you know. Yeah. But in 4th edition, it was. 4th edition portable holes were like that. They weren't like the portable holes in every other edition of D&D. In most editions of D&D, it doesn't create an opening to the other side of a wall. It just creates a space inside whatever surface you put it on. Like it creates an extra dimensional space. It's like a bag of holding, just with a gigantic opening instead of a bag you're carrying around.
Right. Yeah. And because I remember having the idea of a Warforged artificer that had a workshop inside of a portable hole that could be kept in somebody's pocket so that he can be working on like magical items or something while they're traveling. So he can be because he would just like one of his magical, he was an artificer that had like the goggles of night vision or whatever, or one of the magic items that you can make pretty early on in artificer. So he'd just be in the dark in a portable hole that's like just in someone's pocket. And he'd just be like working away. Yeah.
I don't actually remember what my first encounter was with a portable hole, or with a bag of holding or portable hole or whatever. I do know that because there was not one in the Curse of the Azure Bonds game, which again was my only introduction to D&D until I actually played the game. And I think when I first started playing the game, I think I probably just read about them in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yeah.
Because I think my first time ever actually getting a portable hole might have been in the game Neverwinter Nights. I keep saying portable hole, I think, a bag of holding. I think was in Neverwinter Nights. You don't actually get a bag of holding for a very long time. You get these like, I don't even remember what they're called. You get these like cheapo versions where it's like, oh, this reduces the weight of anything inside it by like 10%.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know what
so I just had a bunch of those for a long time. And then finally I got a bag of holding. It was a huge deal. It was a huge difference compared to the things I was used to.
Yeah, you're right. Because it was like a small container, but anything you put in there didn't weigh much of anything.
Yeah. So I think that was I don't think there was another time before that I actually encountered a bag of holding.
Yeah.
So not a good one, I guess. Not a significant one. Yeah. So hopefully some of our listeners have something cool in return.
Yep.
So that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Caford4. Sorry, it's Card Ninja, but with a 4 instead of an A. Caford4 via on Reddit, and Caford4 says, there's a short one, leaping off the roof to fight a giant. That's it. That's the whole character. That's it.
No.
So we have to assume either they jumped off and died on impact,
missed,
or this is what my preference is that the giant smacked them out of the air.
Yeah.
Just like with a bat, like a baseball.
Right.
Who knows? It's up to you, listener.
Right. Yeah.
To deciding to figure out exactly what was the cause of death.
Sure.
A few options. So, or maybe they just had a heart attack mid-flight. Who knows?
Oh no.
I actually do remember in one of the first games that I ever ran, One of our friends, John Moochie, his character, they were fighting a hill giant, and he climbed up on top of a nearby cliff and jumped off so that he could attack the giant in midair. He didn't die, so I know that he is not secretly Kaford Ninja 4.
Right.
But, I'm sure other people have attempted the same, and apparently it didn't go well.
Right, yeah.
So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Card Ninja's character as we say, choose your own adventure.
Clink.
All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned in the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com, although at the moment that is still not usable currently. I don't know why. Also, here's a weird thing. They took down one of my posts from a few weeks ago. I got an email saying that it was taken down for some sort of a content warning. Then I immediately got another email saying that it was reviewed and it was reinstated. But there was nothing on there. It's just one of our recaps of the episode with links to what we talked about. Nothing on there was in any way inappropriate.
Wait, what is it? What site is this?
It's Blogspot, I think, or Blogger.
What is Blogspot? What do they care?
I don't even know. The thing's gotten 4 views ever.
What do they care? What I don't know.
I don't know. They're being run by monkeys right now.
Who knows?
So, anyway, no, you made a horse sound, Jeff. You should have made a monkey sound.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh ah, or something. Anyway, join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. You can also find us on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on the podcatcher of your choice. We are on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. And you can head over to bit.ly/InterPartyConflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
I'll get you, my pretty. And your little podcast, too.